Okay, so let me just chat about typical day in the life so you get a sense what that's like before we move on. So I like to start by saying that the typical day in the life varies on two dimensions. I sound like a consultant. And the first dimension is whether you're on a travel case or a local case. And the second dimension is the day of the week. Now that might sound a little funny, so I'll give you a bit more detail. When you're on a travel case, your life is very different from when you're in the office. Starting with the fact that you wake up on Monday morning and you get on an airplane, or in my case in Europe, you get on a train, and you go to a client site, which means you're actually traveling to that site and you're setting up basically your mobile desk at that client, typically in a conference room style room with the rest of your team. You'll often meet with your clients all day, be running workshops, running meetings, and spending a lot of time with the client as well as your direct team members that are there with you. The evenings consist of, a workout and dinner at the hotel, and some more work typically. Given that you're away from home, that's sort of what ends up happening at night. You come home Thursday evening, typically. Again, some firms do a 3-day model, but typically it's 4. And depending on how far you are, it can be Thursday night. And I would say that what this means is you usually have longer days. You have less interaction with the rest of the colleagues at your firm, particularly in your office. And you definitely have a more limited personal life. That's just a fact. When you're on a local case, the difference is that you're in the office, so you can typically be interacting more often with people that aren't directly on your project, which is nice, people from other projects in the office. You don't have the travel, of course, and you're either meeting more often with your team or you are traveling, sort of within the city to your client for meetings. So again, there's trade-offs. You're not sitting right beside your client and able to talk to him all the time, but you are sitting beside your colleagues. In terms of the personal life, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's much better. It's less limited in that you're in the city. If you need to go to a dentist appointment, you can do that. If you want to see friends, you can do that. The challenge is that there's more pressure on you because you're in the city to go and do things at night, and sometimes that means compromising on a couple of even later nights or some weekend work because you've chosen to go out for dinner a couple nights a week or things like that. So I would say that those are the trade-offs between a local and a travel case. And when I say day of the week, it's really because Fridays are kind of special in consulting. Because typically you've been gone Monday to Thursday or you've been working hand-in-hand with your client, Friday is exciting because you're back in the office. Friday is typically the day when there's office meetings, office updates, training sessions. That's the day you do your expenses, you book your travel for the following week, you catch up with your colleagues. So it really tends to be an administrative type day in consulting, again, often because you're traveling during the rest of the week. So I hope that helps. It's a pretty detailed day in the life, but to give you a sense of the trade-offs you face.
Yeah, and on that, Kathleen, clearly your life changes a lot from a travel to a local case. Are there, you walked through kind of the lay of the land of the industry earlier on. Is there a big difference in terms of the types of firms that travel or specific firms that travel more than others? How can students get a sense of which are going to be a higher travel component versus others?
So I think it's both the type of firm and the location. So I'm not going to travel as much in London because London has a lot of clients right in the city. If you were to be, let's say, located in Washington, D.C., and your firm doesn't do any government work, chances are you're going to be traveling a lot. Alternatively, if your firm does government work and you're in Washington, you won't be traveling a lot. So, I think you need to think about both the firm, the type of clients that they work with, and then the city that you're in. It's the same for some of these specialized and boutique firms. If you want to work in healthcare, then you should pick a firm that has an office or pick an office for a firm that is close to either the major pharmaceutical companies or major government health organizations or major private health organizations, because that means you won't travel as much.
Okay, excellent. So, moving on a little bit, just cognizant of the time here. So can you talk a little bit about, we referred to this earlier, but specific qualities firms are looking for that students can either call out in their work history or call out in their resume and cover letter?
Sure. Like I said, these are pretty general. I'll call out the ones that I think are most important. Firms are definitely looking for professionalism, maturity. You might call it by a different word. Basically, you're going to be in front of senior clients often, quite frequently in consulting, and so they want to hire people that demonstrate that they can interact with senior people on a frequent basis in a professional manner. I would say that's a base level. They're also really looking for people that enjoy problem solving and are competent at problem solving, as well as competent at analytical work. They want people that on two fronts, and I sort of put the Microsoft equivalent, but are able to work with data and also to create and give presentations. So the great thing about consulting is really you get the quantitative aspect, but you also really get this this people-facing strategic aspect. And so this job really makes you have both skill sets and forces you to use both skill sets as you analyze a problem and then work with a client to solve it. A couple of other broader ones that I think you should definitely touch on in your resume and a cover letter, as well as in your interviews, things like teamwork. You'll be on a team in consulting, so that that you've done that and that you've been successful working in teams is important. That you enjoy working in teams is really important. That you've had leadership experience, as well that you're adept at time management with all this traveling and the amount of work that you can sometimes have. That's really important. People management, sort of as you come out of your MBA, that'll start to get more and more important in terms of your own team. But managing a client and sometimes difficult clients is something that you want to demonstrate. And certainly flexibility, as I've demonstrated with your travel and your personal life, I think is really important. Given those skills, I think you want to position yourself as someone who's driven and motivated. You want to show why you want to be in consulting. I talked about this a little bit before, but why do you want to work for that specific firm and what do you bring to the table? Show that you've worked in teams and that you understand, you're willing and flexible to deal with stress and senior people and travel and all of those things. And most importantly, that you enjoy problems and analytical work because you'll do that on the job.